ball a lot here tonight. Get it.
First-round draft pick from Washington, and if he can get his game going like this, and they can play a little bit of man coverage, and they can add an extra rusher now and then to our already formidable pass rush, everything's starting to come together.
23 seconds for Mayfield. Flushed again with the rush from Fisk. On the run he throws. Godwin can't bring it in. Last second hands of Emmanuel Forbes again.
From Kevin Seagram on Twitter. I think he works for somebody, maybe 33rd team or something like that. Emmanuel Forbes is why people take chances on discarded first-round draft picks. It takes time, especially at DB. Emmanuel Forbes last night, 7 targets, didn't give up 1 reception, no yards allowed. He's pretty good. Emmanuel Forbes doing a pretty good job with the LA Rams. I think actually, like, maybe we should be most mad at the players they let go. Zane Gonzalez is kicking his ass off in Atlanta. He had 2 50-yard plus field goals yesterday for Kirk's Falcons. Good morning, everybody. Man, yesterday was another really good day in the NFL. We're going to go around all of the games. We will go around all of them. But we had underdogs in 9. Underdogs right now for the weekend are 9-2-2. Not bad, especially when you like playing underdogs. Another winning weekend for the smell test. 6-3-1. I promised you I would give you Carolina, San Francisco if I'm going to play it tonight or not. I'm still waiting for some information. I'll let you know by the end of the show, but it's possible I'll give out the Panthers tonight plus the 7. The game of the day yesterday, there were 2 of them really. The early game between the Chiefs and the Colts, with the Chiefs trying to really keep their season alive, not that they'd be eliminated with a loss. They're down 11 in the fourth quarter. They come back to tie it, force overtime. It's actually quite remarkable that they didn't win the game in regulation, given where they were at the end of regulation. But they won it in overtime. The Colts took the ball at the beginning of overtime. Not the right choice in that game anyway, in my opinion. I thought it was a bad decision. The Chiefs get the win. And then later on in the day, Cowboys, Eagles, and wow. An absolute memorable NFC East game. You know, there have been dozens and dozens of them over the years. And I'm talking about regular season as much as I am postseason. The big regular season matchups between Washington and Dallas, Dallas and Philadelphia, Dallas and the Giants and the Eagles, the Giants and Washington. You know, you're down 21-0. You come back to win the game 24-21. That's a memorable game. It's the 3rd time the Cowboys have done it. They did it in 2014 against the Rams. The time previous to that, 1999, Rocket Ismail in overtime as the Cowboys rallied from 35-14 down on opening day in Landover to beat Washington 41-35 in overtime. That was a football game yesterday. You know, the Cowboys squandered so many opportunities. I mean, the game really was penalty-ridden, turnover-ridden. It wasn't the cleanest game, but it made it incredibly compelling. You know, sometimes the cleanest games aren't the most interesting. You had 22 penalties combined for 165 yards of penalty yardage. You had 4 total turnovers in the game. You had Brandon Aubrey miss a field goal in the game. And the Cowboys came back from 21 down to beat the Eagles. I'll tell you what, man, it's like the Eagles, I guess we'll see when we get to the postseason. They're going to make the postseason, although they play the Bears on Black Friday. And then they follow that up with a game against the Chargers on the road. They still play the Bills on the road, but they get Washington twice, and they still have the Raiders. You know, I don't see this being that 10-1 collapse from 2023. They made the postseason that year, but if you recall, they got absolutely blown out in the playoff game by Tampa Bay. on the road. I think it's going to be hard for them to lose the division. I mean, the Cowboys right now, after what is coming up on Thanksgiving Day against the Chiefs, more on that in a moment, they have to go to Detroit. They still have to play the Chargers at home. They have a game here on Christmas Day. Washington could certainly play spoiler at the end of the year if that interests you. I know it doesn't interest everybody. The game coming up on Thanksgiving Day between the Cowboys and the Chiefs, remember back in May when we had Mike North, one of the key people involved in the making of the NFL schedule. He said that particular day when he was on with us right after the schedule came out, he said, we're anticipating that Cowboys-Chiefs on Thanksgiving Day might be the most watched regular season game in NFL history. Well, after the Chiefs rallied from 11 down in the fourth quarter to win in overtime over the Colts to get to 6-5, and the Cowboys came from 21 down to beat the Eagles 24-21 at the gun to get back to 500. I don't think there's any doubt. You know, that 4:30 window is always the biggest on Thanksgiving Day. Why is that? Well, it's the Cowboys, number one. Number two, something that I didn't know until a few years ago, and I remember I had to look it up. Most people actually eat before 4:30 on Thanksgiving Day. We are a late eating Thanksgiving Day family. Like, dinner doesn't get served until about 7 o'clock. But that on Thanksgiving Day promises to be, and they're already talking about it in league circles, communications group in the NFL. They're expecting Dallas hosting Kansas City on Thanksgiving Day to be the most watched regular season game in NFL history. You know, 9 years ago on Thanksgiving, the Washington-Dallas game was for several years the most watched game in NFL history during the regular season. And then that got beat a couple of times, I think, since. But Chiefs at Cowboys, have you seen the line yet, Max? You want to guess?
Yeah, let's play guess the line. I'll give it.
I've seen it already.
Okay. I'll give it Chiefs -4.5.
Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites.
Damn it. I wanted to give
3.5-point favorites. I thought they would be favored. They should be favored. I can tell you this. I kind of like the Cowboys a little bit on Thanksgiving Day. By the way, that follows Packers at Lions. How big is that game in the NFC North? The Lions at home, after rallying to beat the Giants 34-27 in overtime. We're going to get to all of these games in detail. But how good is Jahmyr Gibbs? Jahmyr Gibbs just appears to be the fastest player on offense in the NFL. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I'm sure like Rashid Shaheed, there's some guys that are 4.2 guys. What was Gibbs? What was his time? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter because in a football uniform, he looks like the fastest dude in the NFL. He rushed for 219 yards on 15 carries, 14.6 yards per carry. I keep thinking every time I watch Jahmyr Gibbs go off, like remember the playoff game. He was averaging 10 yards a carry at halftime. Why did they ever do anything but hand the ball off to Jahmyr Gibbs? He is truly a special player. The Giants blew another double-digit second-half lead. They fired their defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen. Chip Kelly's gone in in Vegas as the OC. As Shadur Sanders gets a win in his first start. And then we will play some of the Shadur Sanders sound afterwards. Really, the young man's got to get a grip. He's young. He's got time. But wow, it's just incredible football games. The Pittsburgh-Chicago game, the Patriots-Bengals. The Bengals were right there at the end with a chance to win that game. Even the Titans hung in there against Seattle. And then late in the day, Jacksonville, man, I don't know what Liam Cohen was doing, but I thank him for it because I had the Cardinals +3. He had a chance to kick a field goal to go up 6. No one wants to kick field goals anymore. The Giants had a chance to go up 6. The Jags had a chance to go up 6 late, and they both failed, and they ended up losing. Well, the Giants did in overtime. Jacksonville actually won the game in overtime. And then we had last night the Rams destroying the Buccaneers. Yeah, with some help from Emmanuel Forbes Jr. I'm happy for the young man. Look, it sucks that he couldn't do it here. You've got to be patient with draft choices. And at certain positions, even more so, especially when you join a terrible team. Terrible. I understand that this group had a shot at him too. This group could have said, we see it, and we will wait for it, even if it means another year or two. But there's talent there. We can see it. They didn't see it. Now, to be fair, Emmanuel Forbes was hurt a lot here. He wasn't really available for a lot of games. Still, that I'm not taking them off the hook for missing the talent. I'm not. He has obviously shown something in a much better team environment right now. The Rams are excellent. An incredible defense. He was not on an incredible defense at any point here. The 2023 defense was horrific, and the 2024 defense was even worse. And yeah, he's in an organization where the coaching is outstanding. I'm not casting dispersions against our coaching staff. I think it's pretty good for the most part. It's deep. It's pretty good. I like our head coach. I like our offensive coordinator. I like some of the assistant coaches. We've questioned the defensive coordinator hire for a while now, and there will be a new defensive coordinator. But on the Rams in particular, I think last week that Seattle Rams game was a matchup. Right now, subject to change, of course, it's the NFL. But I think last week's Seattle Rams matchup was a matchup between the two best teams in the league. And the Rams right now at 9-2, destroying Tampa last night 34-7. Baker Mayfield ended up in a sling in that game. And by the way, all of a sudden, the Buccaneers are really struggling. They are, after that loss last night, they've lost 3 in a row, 4 of their last 5. They've been close in these games until last night. And last night, they had to put Teddy Bridgewater in the game. Yes, he's still in the league. Now, they don't play a great team the rest of the way. The Buccaneers don't. They're 6-5. They play the Cardinals. They play the Saints. They play the Falcons. They play the Panthers twice. And they play the Dolphins. But what will that injury be to Baker Mayfield? Meantime, the Rams, man, they are rolling. I think it's Seattle and LA. I think they're the two best teams in the league right now. I mean, I'm certainly intrigued with New England and Denver. And, I think we saw a really good team in Indianapolis yesterday that lost. Kansas City, you can't count out. I think Houston, as I talked about on Friday, is really dangerous. They're now 2 games back, and they still have 2 with the Colts starting this coming Sunday, a massive game in the AFC South. Houston at Indy. If Houston can go into Indy and win and be a game back with still 1 left against the Colts, they got a shot. Jacksonville's in between them at 7-4. They're the ones that look a little bit lucky, more than good right now. Trevor Lawrence threw 3 picks in the game yesterday, and they won. That's a little bit dangerous. I think it's Rams and Seattle right now. I think Philadelphia's got major questions offensively. I think the Lions have questions up front, even though Jahmyr Gibbs ran for what he ran for. They're not the same dominant offensive line that they've been. They're not, great defensively. I think Green Bay is all around good, but you question the quarterback. I think the Bears, my God, they won again. This time, though, against, a backup quarterback, and they still had to hang on for dear life, winning 31-28. It gets real now for the Bears. They get the Eagles, Packers on the road. Then they get the Packers, 49ers, and Lions to finish. But you got to give Ben Johnson and that team, and Caleb Williams included, a lot of credit. I mean, he may not be the highest percentage passer, but he makes plays. A lot of them with his legs. I think it's Seattle and LA. And we're going to see them a Thursday night game late in the season, heading into Christmas. weekend in Christmas Day, where you get the doubleheader with triple header, which includes Washington. That game on December 18th at Seattle, I think, will determine the NFC West champ, and very likely, I think, the 1 seed overall. And that 1 seed will be really difficult to supplant when we get to the postseason. I mean, the NFC's deep, things can happen. But I would say right now, either one of those two teams, they're the most complete. I trust Sean McVay. I trust the Rams more than I do the Seahawks and Sam Darnold. But if Seattle were at home as the 1 seed, needing to win 2 home games to get there, you certainly would like their chances. I would also just quickly say, I think that like New England, Denver, I want to see them, in their first. Denver was in the postseason last year. See how they react. I do really like Drake May. I watched a lot of that game yesterday because I bet Cincinnati. I had them plus the points. They got it done. It was an interesting game. Cincinnati's defense hasn't played that well all year long. You could look at it and you could say, man, the Patriots didn't do to Cincinnati what other teams did, but he's really good. He makes really good plays. They are so schemed up perfectly. I mean, people are wide open in that offense. I think we get Joe Burrow back Thanksgiving night against Baltimore, right? And I'll tell you, man, I'm just not impressed with the Ravens at all. I understand that they've now won 5 in a row. Yesterday was a life and death game with the Jets. Not at the very end, but through 3 quarters it was. I mean, they didn't take the lead in the game until the third quarter, midway through the third quarter. And then just an absolute stupid decision by Aaron Glenn to go for a 4th and 3 in his own territory in a game that was defensive. And it was 10-7. The Jets, by the way, got the cover too. That was very close at the end. Getting everything to fall my way on these backdoor covers or these late, Baltimore could have easily scored or kicked a field goal on 4th down. They didn't do any of those things, and they ended up winning by 13 when they were a 14-point favorite. Wild day in the NFL, man. It's been really good, I think, the last 2 weeks. And we got the home stretch, and unfortunately, our team isn't going to be a part of any of the excitement, other than maybe as a spoiler in their games against the Eagles and Dallas. We'll see. Long way to go before we even get there. Now, there is, I think, some news out there. Jaden Daniels, once again, got social media'd out a conversation that he had with Brandon Ayuk, his very close friend from all the way back in the Arizona State days. You'll hear what Jaden said next.
Bro, look in the cam, bro. Look at the cam.
He got me vlogging this
Bro, what? They said they don't want me back. I swear.
That was July of 2024. That was a video that Brandon Ayuk, the 49ers receiver at the time, who was in a holdout and a contract negotiation with the 49ers, posted to TikTok, which also included him watching film of a Washington practice. There was a conversation he was having with his very good friend from Arizona State days, Jaden Daniels. And you heard Jaden Daniels say when Ayuk said they don't want me back, he's like, I want you here. And if you recall, back in July of 2024, Jaden had yet to take a snap in the NFL. I think most people felt, I did anyway, that's not good judgment on the on Brandon Ayuk's part. Jaden had him watching film. He was looking for help, looking for private advice and help in having him look at the film. Jaden learned a lesson that day, but Brandon Ayuk's judgment certainly came into question. Eventually, as you recall, it was between Pittsburgh and Washington were the two teams that were interested, that he had interest in. Pittsburgh legitimately was interested, but he ended up signing a huge deal with the 49ers. It was a massive $120 million deal. And then he suffered last October with his new contract in hand, a devastating right knee injury in October of last year. He is still not back. There are 6 games left in the regular season for the 49ers, including their game tonight, or 7 games. What are they right now? Are they 7? They're 7-4. They've got 6 games left. So they have not yet had their bye week. And it's becoming more and more likely that he is not only not going to play this year, it's very possible he's never going to play with the 49ers again. Why? Well, it was reported the other day that the 49ers voided a lot of the guaranteed money for 2026 because Ayuk had not been meeting the requirements of his deal. And so the team voided a big part of the contract. Ayuk apparently has decided not to fight it with the help of the NFLPA because he wants out. He wants out of San Francisco. So we're talking about literally a year and a few months removed from a 4-year, $120 million contract extension, which was supposed to bring everybody back into the fold. Everybody was going to be happy about it. Apparently, nobody's been happy about it since. I'm emphasizing that because there is a Terry angle in this story. And Ayuk may ultimately only have played 5 games on this new deal as a 49er. The fact that he's not fighting these voids, which apparently he could fight successfully with the help of the NFLPA, is about him wanting out of San Francisco. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up now is twofold, maybe really threefold. Number one is Brandon Ayuk might be available. Number 2 is over the weekend, Brandon Ayuk posted another video. This one with Jaden Daniels in a conversation with his very good friend Brandon Ayuk. And he says something, if you listen carefully, about his availability, Jaden's availability, for the upcoming game against Denver on Sunday night.
Put your face in the camera, man. Put your face in the camera, man. You know where you at. I told you I was going to do it.
I don't know where you at.
You know where you at now?
Man,
Flip it. You know where you at now?
I'm gonna say, why you gonna laugh, yo?
Bro, I got something for you. Can we see that watch? Yeah.
That's for you, man.
Last player.
Rose gold skeleton. There's a way cheaper one, but I told him don't get that one.
Hold on one second. Hey, what you finna do this weekend, though? Sunday night.
Bro, just tune in, bro. I'm back. Just tune in, bro.
You back this weekend?
I'm back this weekend, bro.
Let's do it. Come on. I'm in that burgundy. Come on.
Bro, where
There
you
you
get that from?
Come on.
Brandon Ayuk, first of all, that first part of it, I guess they bought Jaden a watch.
He's getting him a watch for Christmas. I don't know, something like that.
For Christmas, getting him a watch. But you heard him say there at the end, he's back this week. That would be news if he's back this week. We'll find out more as to whether or not there's any truth to that when Dan Quinn talks for the first time off the bye week today. It is today, right? Pretty sure it's today. Do we not know that? We should know that before. I think he said it was the Monday after the bye week that would be. Yeah, hold on. I get the media schedule right now for this week. No, we're not going to hear from him until Wednesday. We're not going to hear from Quinn until Wednesday.
I just got an email from, of course, I just closed it. From the, because I'm usually on the scheduling email.
My fault. 3:30 today. He's talking.
Yep.
3:30 today. Yep. Got it. I got the email too. 3:30 today. So Quinn, he's going to be asked about the quarterback situation. I'm going to predict right now. He's going to say, "Look, we're I'm going to have more on that on Wednesday when we get to practice." He's done that many, many times, unless they absolutely, are ruling him out and it's not even close. But even in the event that that's the truth, I mean, I don't know how I'll handle. Look, they're 3-8. Who really cares at this point, right? I mean, we'll find out today. So, look, there are three things to this story right now. Number one is maybe Jaden's going to play this week. He told his good friend Brandon Ayuk he's going to be back this week. We'll see if there's any truth to that. Number two is that Brandon Ayuk might be available via trade. And, I'm not a big fan of the way Brandon Ayuk handled his contract negotiation last summer. He got seriously injured. And what will he look like coming off this injury? That's a big question mark as well. I hated that TikTok video that he put out last summer. I don't think it showed good judgment because it put his very good friend into a situation where some of their practice film was shown. Whether it was, any sort of advantage gained for an opponent or not is really not the point. The point is you don't send out another team's practice video on TikTok, on social media. That's not in the best interest of your good friend. Makes him look bad. Makes him look careless in that moment. We'll come back to the Ayuk thing here in a moment. The third is this. So I read this story over the weekend from longtime Bay Area columnist Tim Kawakami. He wrote a long column about the Brandon Ayuk situation. And I'm going to read some of it for you. He basically said there are 5 takeaways from this situation, or 5 conclusions. He said the first is, in the wide receiver drama litany, Deebo Samuel's issues over the previous few years were specifically with the 49ers negotiators before he was traded last spring. Ayuk's problems seem much more about being weary of Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, and the 49ers philosophy, offensive system, and culture. And he writes, it's not like Ayuk can complain about his contract. He got almost exactly what he wanted last year, but just walked away not being super happy about the way it went. And that the $120 million 4-year deal didn't really bridge the gap between some of the feelings that were going on. And he had been benched in his second season and apparently had never really gotten over that. Let's not forget that the last season that Brandon Ayuk played in, full season, he was outstanding. I mean, he was a very good player for the 49ers in 2023. Very good player for them in 2023. He led the NFL in 2023's regular season in average yards per reception at 17.9. He had 75 catches, but for 1,342 yards, 7 touchdowns. He was a legit number 1 wide receiver. I was very interested in Brandon Ayuk in the conversations we had. Then some of the character stuff started to get revealed. Look, there's that fine line, right? Are you the guy that says, I don't care, I want George Pickens? I want the guy that might be a bit of a problem, but is so ridiculously talented, I'll take my shot. Now, Pickens is really proving the Cowboys to be super smart. And Tomlin, they could have used him this year. There's no doubt about it. Would they have gone out and signed DK Metcalf? I don't know. Have no idea if they would have pulled that deal off for Metcalf. But Ayuk was a legit number one wide receiver. I thought after 2023, he's in the conversation of a top 10 guy for sure. What does he look like coming off the knee injury? Don't know. Back to Tim Kawakami's column. So he first says, look, this has never been about what Debo's deal was, which was about what he was worth and contract negotiations. This was about a trust and a break in the trust that he had with GM and coach. Number two, he writes, both sides have always been on guard in this relationship, going back to him being benched in his second season, some of the medical protocol involved. He has not really trusted the 49ers. But here's number three. His devastating injury only put more distance between Ayuk and the 49ers. Unless you're very connected to your teammates and coaches, it's easy for any injured player to lose touch with the spirit and everyday mood of the team. Ayuk's not the most talkative player, probably one of the quietest players in the locker room. Interesting, because he's not been that publicly going back to his contract negotiation. He's an emotional guy and very popular figure within that locker room. But rehabbing on a side field can be isolating for a player who already had some disconnect, disconnect to at least part of the 49ers perspective. He also writes the 49ers are in position to go on without Ayuk because of the development of Ricky Pearsall. Kendrick Bourne's addition. Washington was close to landing Kendrick Bourne. He's played well. Juwan Jennings, George Kittle, and having a healthy Christian McCaffrey always matters for the 49ers. And they now, if they move on after the void, have more cash to upgrade their roster during the season. But both sides have always been on guard in this relationship, and the injury sort of separating the player from the team further. Sound familiar? I mean, if you didn't know, Kawakami forever, the columnist, he knows the 49ers, says that he's actually a popular figure in that locker room. Terry has grown distant from our organization. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Doesn't mean that it's not repairable. It doesn't. Those contract negotiations really set not the greatest tone after that deal got done. And it's different than the Ayuk situation. Ayuk got what he wanted. Terry didn't. Terry didn't get anywhere near what he wanted. Ayuk did and was still distrustful. Terry didn't. And I think that there has been a really good vibe between Terry and organization. I think it's not the same. I'm not saying it can't get back to what it was, but then with him being injured for as long as he's been injured and missing as many games as he's missed for the first time in his career, first of all, amplifies the reason, or one of the reasons in the first place, that the team wasn't willing to give him elite wide receiver money. It was age related. Number two is that you do wonder, can he get back to what he was? First of all, I have no idea if what Jaden said to Ayuk is true. We'll find out more today at 3:30, I would assume, or maybe we won't. It would be interesting though if he was back and playing on Sunday night against Denver. Not exactly the best game to come back to. I mean, Denver's loaded on defense. But back to Ayuk. Let's just say that he is available in this offseason because it looks like he's going to be. Do you want him? 301-230-1037. 0980, 301 230 0980. A lot of that contract was voided, but you still have a very high base salary. Terry's 1-year contract extension kicks in next year. There's the issue of his health. There's the issue of his kind of overall judgment. You may find that to be off-putting. He's a talent if he's healthy. Would you want Washington to try to reconnect Jaden Daniels and Brandon Ayuk for the 2026 season? We'll talk about sort of what his value would be when we come back. But 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Brandon Ayuk, more than likely available to teams in 2026 via a trade. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
All right. Happy Monday, everybody. No Commanders yesterday, so we will take a look around the NFC East. The Giants got off to a great start versus the Lions, and boy, did Jameis have that offense humming. Up 20-17 in the fourth quarter, but the Lions storm back, tie it, and send the game to overtime. Jahmyr Gibbs rips off a 70-yard score on the first play, and the game goes final. Some other news, the Giants have also fired defensive coordinator Shane Bowen as of this morning. Speaking of blown leads, what a game between the Eagles and the Cowboys. Philly up 21-0 midway through the second quarter and goes scoreless in the second half. The Cowboys somehow find a way to win. Final score 24-21. Some NFL coordinator firings this morning out of both New York and Las Vegas. As I mentioned, Shane Bowen has been let go by the Giants, and the Raiders are letting go of offensive coordinator Chip Kelly. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all of football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us. Turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
Would you do Brandon Ayuk? Would you want him in your Washington wide receiver room next year? Presumably with Terry McLaurin, maybe even with Deebo Samuel next year. Brandon Ayuk's 2026 contract was partially voided. He's not fighting it. He wants out. He suffered a devastating knee injury last October after signing a 4-year, $120 million deal that included $76 million of guaranteed money. He had a phenomenal 2023. The contract negotiations were contentious. He asked for a trade, and there was at least one interested team. We know the Pittsburgh Steelers going into last year. There was that discussion of him and Jaden, and he posted that TikTok video. Included in that TikTok video was a practice video of Washington's practice training camp before Jaden had played his first game. The two of them were on a TikTok video from just a day or two ago, in which Jaden says he might play on Sunday night. We'll see. He said he's going to play. We'll find out more later on this afternoon. Brandon Ayuk is currently 27 years old. His last full season was a dynamic one for sure, 1,300 plus yards. Led the NFL in yards per reception, and that's why he got the deal that he got. Now it looks like they are headed towards a split. If you're wondering like what the value would be, I would look at like a Jalen Waddle as an example. Jalen Waddle, I think Jalen Waddle in many ways is a little bit more elusive, but they're very comparable. They're comparable in age. Jalen Waddle at the trade deadline, Tom Pelissaro actually reported that Buffalo, now that was within the division, Buffalo had offered a 2027 first rounder, not this upcoming draft, but a year from this spring, and a 2026 third rounder. But Miami turned it down because they wanted a first round pick in the upcoming draft for Jalen Waddle. So they ended up keeping Jalen Waddle. Is that what Brandon Ayuk's worth? Can't be after a devastating knee injury. There's just way too much that we don't know about his health. That's the most important thing. Because if you are of the mind of, I don't get hung up in personalities and diva-ness and difficult teammates. I just want talent on my team, and he's a talent. So if he's healthy, I'm interested. But there's a lot working here. It is whether or not that knee will allow him to play football. It was, described as a pretty devastating knee injury when it happened back in October. They thought he would be ready to play at some point this year, and they still believe, one of the issues and why they went back and voided the 26 is that he had not been following sort of the guidelines of his contract with respect to reporting to the facility for medical updates, medical treatment, etc. There's just a real lack of trust between Ayuk and the 49er organization. The absences amounted to basically, the Athletic reported, a failure to fulfill his contractual obligations, and that a lot of that had to do with his communication on the injury, his reporting with what was supposed to happen to the facility. And while many believe the NFLPA could fight this on behalf of Ayuk, he says he doesn't want to fight it. He wants out. What would he be worth? I think coming off that injury, you're going to have to give up. You don't have a second and a fourth. You're going to have to give up at least a third minimum. Now, he's under contract, and his contract is pricey. Right now, like the base salary is very low for the upcoming season in 2026, but then it balloons to 27 and 29 million in 2027 and in 2028. Right now, per spot rack, he'd have a cap hit of $41.4 million in 2027 for the 49ers and $43.3 million for the 49ers in 2028. Now, some of that in terms of the signing bonus money would not be something Washington would have to deal with. They'd have to deal with it in dead cap money. The 49ers would. Let's call it a third and maybe another late round pick, given the injury. Maybe I'm off. I always say this about trade talk. This is the area in which we tend to miss big. But Buffalo was willing to offer a future first, which is really the equivalent, especially where they're picking, like a second rounder and a third rounder in this year's draft. That would have been the equivalent of like a second and a third rounder in this year's draft. I would think coming off that injury, you got to give up at least a third rounder. Would you do it? Max, would you do it?
Man, I don't know at this point. I haven't really, like, at the beginning of all this entire saga, I was very, very pro bringing Brandon Ayuk in, and especially with all our wide receiver issues. I mean, we all know how it's going. But I don't know if I can bring that mindset into this locker room when we already have Terry kind of disgruntled in the shadows, kind of keeping more quiet than he usually used to. So for those like locker room reasons, I probably would stay away just because I know the value of keeping everybody kind of on the same page as opposed to having somebody who's on their own page. So I'm right now, no, but I could definitely be talked into it later down the line. But right now, just nah, I'm good.
If he's cleared physically and his knee, there's no concerns about his knee when we get to 2026, I'm all in.
Interesting.
I just think that right now you look at the receivers that are out there in free agency, and the pickings are kind of slim. Again, this is all contingent on a physical showing that he is going to be 100% what he was before the injury. And you get a true number one to pair with Terry, a true number one. You need speed on that offense. I'd also think about bringing Debo back. We talked about that last week. 301-230-0980. Ralphie, kick it off for us. Brandon Ayuk may be available in this upcoming offseason. Let's just call it a third given the injury. He is under contract. You've got him under contract. You don't have to worry about that. Would you do it?
Absolutely not. I don't think he's that good of a player. I don't think he can really separate in terms of short area. No, listen, in short area spaces, he's a long strider. That's not what you need. You need guys who can get open. I thought the perfect fit for the offense was Stephon Diggs in the offseason because of that. He's not a speedster, but he's a short area quickness type of guy. You need guys who can get open. And also, Ayuk is just a headache. You don't need that in your locker room. He's just not worth it. If they release him, I mean, you could kick the tires on it, but I just don't think he's what we need. You know, I'd rather just bring Debo back because at least Debo he's not a pure receiver, but he's a weapon. And then also, I know you made that Terry angle, but do you really think Terry's disgruntled? I mean, he's hurt. He can't really talk. So I don't know if he's disgruntled.
Yeah,
I just don't think he can do it.
Yeah, I'm not questioning whether or not he's hurt. I think that this was a very, very we saw it with him, right? The day after that Eastern Motors thing was a guy that was hurt. He was, and that never, I don't think, subsided. How could it have subsided when he was absolutely trampled in the deal? The team literally gave him a 1-year contract extension for 2026. He got nowhere near what he was looking for.
I think if you have concerns about that and you really want to bolster this receiver room, I think you should just go and get Alec Pierce out of Indianapolis. I think he'll be a better fit for this offense. Yeah, I just think he's a better fit. I just think the IU thing is terrible. It'd be a terrible acquisition. He's just a headache. He's not that.
That's good. Not what his teammates said. Just to be clear, when he was getting pretty good separation in 2023, and he had emerged as a legit, somewhere in that 7 to 12 range, right there with Terry. I think I liked Ayuk's speed and game breaking ability even more than Terry's. I think he's an extraordinary talent. For me, though, it's all about, are you going to be getting the same guy? And you have to also consider he's going to be, reconvened with someone that he knows very well. And I don't want the price to be exorbitant. Like if he's cleared physically and everybody's got a lot of faith that this guy can be what he was before the injury, there will be a market for him. There will be bidders for him for sure. So, I'm not willing to give up a first rounder. No chance. But something like a third, if he's cleared physically, I would definitely think about it. By the way, the Diggs thing, that's another one in terms of I love Diggs, but Diggs wears out his welcome more so than a Brandon Ayuk has. He's got a history of wearing out his welcome. He is doing a phenomenal job, though. I mean, you talk about a guy that does win and does win immediately in tight spaces. That is Stephon Diggs. All right, I see everybody in hold. We'll go to the next segment and take calls on Brandon Ayuk might be available. Do you want Washington to consider trading for him in this upcoming offseason? 301-230-0980. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. We're free and live on the Odyssey app. From Daniel J. Why didn't Adam Peters want him when he was tradable and healthy? Peters knows him and passed. That's all I need. Oh, Daniel J. is a big Adam Peters fan. It's good to have a few of you left here at 3-8. Remember this. Number one, the 49ers never really wanted to trade him. No, they wanted to sign him because he was really good in 2023. I looked this up for whatever it's worth. PFF in 2023 had him as the number 2 wide receiver in the NFL per the 2023 season. In terms of the season he had, he was behind Tyreek Hill, but ahead of Amon-Ra and Jefferson and some of the others that played well that year in 2023. Look, for me, it's all about, making sure this, for me, it's the assumption of I would do it, but I would do it only if the medical says, no, it's back to 100%. He can be the player he was in 2023. And he's a player, age-wise that is entering his prime of his career. And look, they need speed. They need speed. They need playmaking ability. They need more options next year at wide receiver. And it's not like the free agent class of 2026 has a lot of receiver options. I do like Pierce. I do like Pierce a lot in Indy. All right. And Brandon Ayuk, probably for at least a third it would cost, I'm guessing, coming off that injury. Maybe it's more. I don't know. DC and Waldorf, go ahead. Yes or no?
Yes, I would definitely take Brandon Ayuk, especially with Zach Ertz probably leaving a team that he could be Jaden's safety blanket, and I think he fits good with the team. Like you said, with him and Terry on both sides of the field, and bring back Debo, definitely. And how you doing today, Kevin?
I'm doing well. Thank you, DC. Appreciate it. Let's go to Mark in Largo. Mark, go ahead.
How are you doing, Kevin?
I'm well, Mark. How are you?
Nickname for you. I got a new nickname for you. Kevin, Mr. Robinson's neighborhood Sheehan. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood because you can sit up and talk 8 hours about why you hate a person, and then when the season goes down to where it is now, you're irked and pissed off because the season hasn't gone, and you talk yourself out of doing something. I will say this, there's no way in the world I'm going to keep both Ayuk and Debo. So if I'm getting Ayuk, I'm not keeping Debo. Because I don't think Debo's worth the money that you're going to have to pay him. That's just my blunt, because he's going to break down. I think he's worse than Terry McLaurin. The only person I will make a trade for, somebody you don't like, because this is why I call you Mr. Robinson's neighborhood, is Brian Thomas. But see, you don't like him. And everybody else doesn't like him. So you would probably say, no, I don't want him. Or Kyle Pitts, I would sign him. But see, you don't like him either. So why would I talk about somebody that Kevin Mr. Robinson's neighborhood doesn't like?
So I'm still waiting for your answer. Would you do Brandon Ayuk or not? Yes or no?
I just answered it, Kevin. Of course, you wasn't listening. I said there's no way I would bring him and keep Debo.
Okay, so if Debo goes, so you would do Brandon Ayuk?
I would do Ayuk if you let Debo go.
Okay,
yes.
Okay.
But here's the problem with this, Kevin. You still need a 50-50 guy. Look, did you see that Eagles game yesterday?
Yeah, I watched it.
You see what? Now, of course, yeah, whatever. So here's the deal. If you keep Treylon Burks could be what A.J. Brown can be. You need a 50-50 guy. Now, that's the only person I would keep. And then if you can go and get Brandon Ayuk, yes, you don't need Debo. Because if you let Debo go, you can get comp picks for Debo. That's what they got to start realizing. Let Debo go, get comp picks, get Ayuk.
I don't know. Do you get comp picks after just 1 year of free agency?
Say again?
I think when you sign somebody for just 1 year, I don't think you get the comp picks. I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that.
Well, they got to get something for comp picks. That's the only way that's going to make some sense. But there's no way I'm keeping Ayuk and Debo on the same damn team.
Okay, so which of the two would you prefer, keeping Debo or trading for Ayuk?
Huh?
Which of the two would you
No,
prefer?
I would trade for Brandon Thomas. But if you can
for Brian Thomas Jr., the team that the player that nobody wanted to trade for, and in his second year, Jacksonville was willing to trade.
Mr. Robinson, there you go. Beautiful day in the neighborhood, right, Kevin?
I'm just an observer here, Mark. I'm an observer. Explain to me why Brian Thomas Jr., after a rookie year where he caught 87 balls, 10 touchdowns, and 1,282 yards, why was he made available in year 2? What do you think the reason for that was? And then no one was interested.
Kevin, here's the deal. He has a better he's 24 years old, or 23, 24. He has a better upside than IU. He doesn't have any major injuries.
Well, he drops more balls than anybody in the league, it would seem, but I like his talent.
Mr. Robinson.
I don't even want Mr. Robinson, Mr. Rogers, Mr. Robinson. Yeah,
that's how good you are.
Eddie Murphy,
Mr. Rogers, but you're Mr. Robinson.
Right.
I love you, Kevin. That's why I like messing with you.
I don't even know. It just goes off the rails with Mark every time, but usually in an entertaining way. So,
I'm sorry.
Real quickly, by the way, why is he still on? Sometimes he's just mumbling and talking, and you just hear it in the background. He's still there, right?
Of course.
Yeah, I'm here.
So, let me just tell you, Kyle Pitts, zero interest. This dude is disinterested in playing professional football. You just ask any Falcon. He dropped 3 balls yesterday in the first half.
Jesus Christ was playing yesterday in Kirk Cousins. Your God.
Listen. I had that game on my other screen, and Kirk threw one right into his hands, and it turned into a pick 6. I've told you this even before with him playing with Penix Jr. Kyle Pitts is a disaster. Extraordinarily talented. Looks like he doesn't give a crap about football. I don't know about Brian Thomas Jr. Thank you for the call. Move on from Mark now. Brian Thomas Jr., I take heed in things like, if he's so good, why in God's name would Jacksonville want to trade him in his second season, midway through it? Something's not right there. I mean, what's wrong with this picture? 87 catches as a rookie, 1,282 yards, 10 touchdowns, and they want to trade him at the deadline of his second season? I mean, you got to pay attention to things like that. But what's even more telling is no one seemed to be interested. So something's going on there that the league knows about that we don't know about. But I would trust Adam Peters to do his due diligence. And if Brian Thomas Jr. checked out and he said, man, we can get him for a song now because nobody else wants him and Jacksonville wants to get rid of him so badly, let's do it. By the way, is he injured now? Brian Thomas Jr.?
I honestly am not sure.
I'm looking at his numbers, and he's got just 30 catches on the season. Okay, his last game was in Vegas in an overtime win on November 2nd. He hasn't played since. I don't know why that would be. Maybe it's an injury. Let's go to Paulie. Paulie, yes or no on Brandon Ayuk if he's available via trade in this upcoming offseason?
Big guy. Hell
up?
To the W, man.
Yep.
Hell to the no. But before I start off on that, man, let me say this about Mark Largo, man. So Treylon Burks can be where A.J. Brown is, huh? Well, that's the same thing Tennessee thought on draft day. How that worked out.
Listen,
you know what I mean?
Look, we can see you can't give up on players so quickly, but I think that is a bit of a reach. But Mark likes to reach every once in a while.
I think Treylon Burks can be a serviceable player. I think he's going to be a good player for us, but he's not going to be no A.J. Brown.
All right, tell me why hell no on Ayuk.
No. So for the third year in a row, you want to give capital for a player that you really don't need. That's what we talking about.
You think you don't need another receiver?
Yeah, we need another receiver, but we don't need a name guy. You could draft a guy. There's a reason why it's hard to trade receivers right now because they're coming out of college a dime a dozen.
Yeah, fair point.
Draft a speed guy. Or how about this? How about sign back the guy that you shouldn't have let go last year because you got cheap on him with De'Ami Brown? I mean, he started to flourish towards the end of the season. You know, in that offense, you know, being the speed guy up the sideline. You know, him and Jaden Steele was getting a good rapport together. You know, They got cheap with him in the offseason. Okay. I mean, so you don't have to, or if you really wanted a guy that had a name and had some speed, you could have traded for Sheehan. You know, if you're talking about giving up a third, I'd rather give up that fourth and a fifth for a younger guy, Sheehan, who I know can fly, and I know that's his specialty. But I'm not trying to give up any more draft capital for the third consecutive year for a player that we really might not need, and he's coming off injury. Same thing we did with Lattimore. Well, I know you love Larry Tunsil, but I'm going to stand by Larry Tunsil thing.
You should have traded him.
Need him. We should have traded him more to get more capital back, but we really didn't have to trade for him. Like,
okay,
I mean,
you've made some good points.
Up,
you've made some really good points on Ayuk, because and I think your best point is that they really do just the receiver position in the draft. They come every year, and they're coming in numbers every year. So I think that's a fair argument. Your Tunsil thing is just I'm just surprised, because you know how hard it is to find someone who does what he does. It's so hard to replace a left tackle that can protect your quarterback. He's one of 6 or 7 that is elite level at doing that. And you wanted to move on from that for a bunch of unknowns. Yeah, that one doesn't make sense to me.
It wasn't a bunch of unknowns. After last season, it wasn't a glaring need. I thought Brandon Coleman did a good job. I thought they brought him along the right way when they had him platooning with Lucas the first half of the season. And I thought the second half of the season he did a good job.
Yeah, but don't compare the two. One is elite level as a pass protector, and one was a rookie that they didn't feel as comfortable as you did based on his performance last year.
Look, they didn't feel comfortable with Forbes or Shane Gonzalez neither, did they?
Yeah. Zane Gonzalez is just kicking his ass off right now in Atlanta. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So no. We got to stop giving up this draft capital. You know, every year in and year out, man. It's time to build this roster. And I heard you talk about the defense on your podcast. The one thing about all these defenses that's dominating, they're fast and they're young and they're draft picks. And then you can sprinkle in a veteran here and there like a Danielle Hunter. You know what I mean? That's how you have to build this roster. But giving up capital every year and then hamstringing our depth, you know, we're going to find ourselves in the same position every other year.
No, I think you made a really good case on the Ayuk thing. I think it's smart. I think it's a really good take. Your Tunsil thing to me is way off. And just, you know, Cleveland isn't super young on defense, but they're young enough in certain spots. They drafted that kid from Michigan who's having a hell of a year.
You're just an offensive guy, Sheehan, and I love
Mason Graham. Mason Graham.
I'm going to stop calling you Sheehan. I'm going to call you Kevin Spurrier. Good day to pitch it around the park.
What do you mean? I don't get that one.
I say you're just an offensive guy, man. I said I'm gonna start calling you Kevin.
You just
Spurrier, man.
You just mentioned that you heard me talk about defense for my entire podcast. Actually, you missed that one. I'm actually definitely. I love defense. I love great defense. It's my favorite thing to watch in the NFL. So that one you got wrong. I want a great defense.
You talk about it on one day.
No. You've known me long enough. I love watching dominant defensive teams. We haven't had one here in forever. Whenever there's been even a hint of being good defensively, I've tried to get excited about it, like in 2022, when it looked like the combination of Sweat and Allen and Payne were starting to work.
I'll give you that, but it's a hell to the no on Brandon Ayuk, man.
But no, give me a run game and a great defense, and that would be awesome. But it's not the reality of today's NFL in a lot of situations. I got to run. Thanks. Let's go to where are we going next? Who's up next? My call thing went down.
Let's go. Let's hit Athen and Annapolis. Athen, what's going on, buddy?
Athen and Annapolis. Go ahead.
Hey, listen, the guy's knee is shredded. This wasn't just an ACL. This was everything and then some. And then on top of it, reports are this guy won't communicate properly with the team, or maybe he's not rehabbing properly. That's consider your audience at that point. That's a mess just waiting to happen. I'm not trading no third or fourth round or nothing, maybe a seventh rounder for something that you just don't know what it is. So I'm completely out. I know we have limited draft picks, but everybody needs to just keep the faith and consider what they inherited, but absolutely not for a guy who won't even act like a professional and says, "Oh, I got millions of dollars and guarantees that I'm forfeiting." I don't care. Again, consider your audience.
Yeah, that's not good judgment.
I don't want him here. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, good call. Thanks, Atham. Let's go to Frank in D.C. Frank, go ahead.
Hey, morning, Kev. Real fast, I'm also a no to Ayuk. I think he's too expensive, and at 27 coming off an injury, it's not worth the money. Adam Peters' track record with wide receivers so far is not great. I mean, look at Tinsley out there carving it up. He would be a clear number one given our injuries this season and could develop into a solid number two wide receiver. I know Tom has said on the podcast before that we as fans fall in love with draft picks, that they're imaginary players that we dream are going to turn into Hall of Famers. But I think giving up draft picks, given the limited number we have right now, wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. I think we need to, develop some talent, try to draft well, look at the practice squads of some other teams, see who is, an elite college wide receiver who has some elite traits that we can develop. And
keep in mind, we only have 6 picks, and defense has to be the priority. So there could be a great wide receiver in this upcoming draft, but you've got 6 picks, and you've got to draft defense. You've got to improve defensively. You cannot trot out, no matter how variable defense is year to year, you cannot trot out what you trotted out this year and hope to be competitive. You can have a good season with great offense and terrible defense. We saw it last year, but it's really, really difficult to be a legitimate contender. They've got to start investing defensively. They've got to become a better defense.
I fully agree. There's no debate. I think that if we can look at some free agents, I'm not sure exactly who's coming online, but let's be honest. There's no bigger fan of Terry than me. He is a great player and a better human being and leader. That would have been an elite number 2 on probably a half dozen other NFL teams in this league. I think we need to get somebody young, whether they're a draft pick or somebody under the age of 26, come in and complement him so that we can gracefully allow him to assume a secondary role that the team doesn't have to, he doesn't have to put the team on his back. I think, unfortunately, we've seen this year that Jaden is not necessarily, the rising tide that lifts all boats. He needs some talent out there. And this team has done him a disservice by not putting it out there. I think next season, best case, as it right
they
now,
didn't have it. They had talent to put out there this year. It just didn't make the appearance because of injuries.
Correct. But I mean, drafting
they haven't had people out there
in the 3rd round, Stinnett in the 2nd round. Unfortunately, Adam Peters' draft record when it comes to receiving talent has thus far not been, I'm just looking at rookies and sophomore players out there who are blowing the gates off the NFL. And I'm saying, where are we? Why can't we seem to do that?
Yeah, I mean, they've drafted, what have they drafted? 1 wide receiver in their 2 drafts? Luke McCaffrey?
2.
And Jalen Lane. Jalen Lane.
And Lane.
Yeah.
And you can argue if Lane's supposed to be a specialist, again, I'm persuadable here. But I think if you look at the fact that, we've let Diami go, Zacchaeus walk, Tinsley is one that kills me the most. I was at the preseason game against the Bengals. I'm a season ticket holder. During preseason, when you see him catch, was it 3 or 4 touchdowns against us in that one game? I mean, the guy's he's clearly
he's still like 4 on the depth chart, right? Because it's Higgins, Chase, Josevich, and then him, right?
Truthfully, yeah, I believe so. Yeah. But I think he's a talented guy. Josevich, I know, is right there behind Brian Thomas, leading drops in the league. But that's another guy I would put on this roster in a heartbeat if for the right price.
Right. I'll just remind you that in back-to-back drafts, and I'm not saying that Adam Peters was the guy that made these picks, but he was part of a front office that in 2 drafts drafted Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, and Brandon Ayuk. So they did a pretty good job in the wide receiver category in 2019 and 2020. You know, Juwan Jennings might be the best blocking wide receiver in the league. Ayuk, obviously with the injury, but was a burgeoning star in 2023, and Deebo's had an excellent career. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it, Frank. Let's go to Bones. Bones, go ahead. Thanks for holding.
Hey, Kevin, man. I appreciate you for taking my call. Shout out to my main man, Max. And, you know, shout out to the 757 Paulie. You know, Kevin, man, I don't think so, man, you know, because, you know, he coming off this, you know, this
yeah,
injury,
the assumption is that he's cleared and that he's going to be back to normal, because I would not even consider it if there was a concern over the medical. Right.
Yeah, but that, you know, that's the problem with this organization, man. You know, it seems like, man, we need to start developing our own players, man. We keep on getting players, you know, that was at another organization that don't want to be there and disgruntled with the organization that originally drafted them, and then they come here and they don't perform, man. And then we let go a lot of good players, man, you know, and I'm like, you know, come on, man, you know, this is crazy, man. You know, we got to get some talent, man, in this organization, man. And I'm talking about real quick, man, before the window closes on us, man. You know, we need real talent on both sides of the ball, man, because I'm looking at these teams out here playing, man, and they got more talent than we do, you know, or the talent they got is putting forth more effort than our talent. You know, something, man, got to give so that this organization can get over that hump. You understand? We need to get over the hump. And I don't care what they do, how they got to figure it out, man, so we can get over the hump, man. That's
Good
all,
job,
man.
Bones.
I love you, man. Thanks for taking my call,
Thanks for the
man.
call. Happy
Please,
holiday
man.
to you. Let's go to Rennell. Rennell's calling. Yes or no on Brandon Ayuk if he's available in the offseason?
Yes, I think if we can, we could get Brandon Ayuk, but he needs to be.
Yes. Uh-oh.
Yes, I think we should go for Brandon Ayuk if we get him cleared on health, and if we get him not with a trade, but if we get him on a release. And I would like to see Terry, Brandon Ayuk, Treylon Burks, Luke, and
okay. All right, that's a good start. That's a good start.
People.
Yeah. Thank you, Rennell. Really appreciate the call. Let's go to Jay in D.C. Jay, yes or no on Ayuk if he's available?
Long time listener, first time caller, Kev.
Thanks, Jay.
I'm a no on Ayuk because we already have, I don't think we need him. We have bigger needs as far as defense first. And even if we did get Ayuk, it would be Ayuk, Deebo, and Terry. How would that dynamic work?
Well, Deebo is a free agent, so we don't know if we'll have Deebo back or not. We don't even know if they're going to be interested in bringing him back. I think they should be interested in bringing him back, but go ahead. Yep.
And also to your point, which I forgot about, Ayuk leaking the practice footage is kind of off-putting to me. So that's immaturity as well. So I wouldn't want to deal with that. I could be talked into it, but as of right now, I'm a solid no on Ayuk. So
thanks, Jay, for the call. Appreciate it. Yeah, no doubt. Coming off 2023, during that 2023 season, I was enamored with Ayuk. So those of you that were listening back then know that. I was like, this dude is so much better than people think he is. And he had a season. PFF, again, for what it's worth, number 2 wide receiver season in 2023, which is why he got that big contract during that off season with a year left. He was a much younger player, too. He is 27 years old now, signed the deal when he was 26 or about to turn 26. Devastating knee injury. And now we don't know what he is and what he will be, because it was a big-time devastating injury that he's not even ready to come back yet a year after the fact. It's actually now 13 months after the fact. There is some discussion the 49ers have had that they'd like to see him back, but there has been a maturity issue with him, no doubt, because over that summer, going public, the Jaden video on TikTok with the practice film, a lot that was off-putting. But you know what? A lot of people said that about George Pickens before this season as well. And Pickens right now is having a top 3 to top 5 wide receiver season. In fact, some would say number 1. I heard Randy Moss say that he's the receiver in the league that reminds him most of himself. Jason and Laurel. Jason, yes or no on Brandon Ayuk?
Hey, Kevin, thanks to you and Max for taking my call. It's like a hell no for me, Kevin. And I honestly think he'd be, if he was on our roster today, he'd be our best wide receiver. If his knee's okay, he's awesome in the run game as a blocker.
Yeah.
You know, Shanahan's very high on him in the past. But for me, it's a no, because I don't know about the person, and I don't know if we want that person in our locker room, and the relationship with Jaden, honestly, makes me a little nervous. Now, maybe I'm dating myself. I'm a 51-year-old guy, but I view Anuke's social media presence as everyone always look at me. I don't, and maybe that's how kids are. I don't know, but I don't like it. And I think
no, I understand the reservations from that standpoint. I have the same. I mean, as much as I love the player, the way he handled the contract negotiations last summer, not last summer, a year ago last summer, there was a lot about that was off-putting. Putting that video out really was terrible judgment in terms of his very good friend. Handling the injury with the fact that the 49ers have voided the 26 and that he doesn't care about it, there's a lot there that is red flaggish, no doubt. Totally am with you.
Yeah, no,
he's also an extraordinary
really
talent if he came back healthy.
Yeah, you're right. He's talented. But I tell you what, everybody watch that video again. And the first thing Jaden is not on camera, and he's trying to tell Jaden, hey, get on the camera. And Jaden's like, man, I don't know where you are. Even his buddy, Jaden's like, hey, what are you doing? So I don't think putting that guy in the hen house makes sense.
You might be right. Maybe Jaden's the one more than anybody else that said, nah, I know him. You know, and Peters knew him too, obviously, from the organization. Yeah. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. Those that I didn't get to, I apologize. We will have, I'm sure, the conversation of Brandon Ayuk's availability when this season ends will be a hotly debated topic around the league. When we come back, we'll go around the NFL. What a day yesterday. Thrilling day with some huge games and huge impact results. We'll get to that next.
What's coming? Prescott over the middle. It is caught inside George Pickens again, and he's down to the 21. Aubrey up, and he's got it! The Cowboys win.
24-21 on a Brandon Aubrey game-winning field goal from 42 yards out. Aubrey actually missed an earlier field goal from 51 yards out. That's everybody else's 61-yarder. The Cowboys rally from 21 down to beat the Eagles 24-21. Dallas has won back-to-back games for the first time this year. The Raiders on Monday night, the Eagles yesterday to get their record back to 500 at 5-5-1. Look, we talked about this game a little bit at the beginning. This is one of those wild games, incredibly entertaining, but hardly cleanly played. I mean, you had in the game 22 penalties for 165 yards of penalty yardage, 4 turnovers, 2 each by the two teams. Philadelphia really, I thought, struggled to run the football. And I think one of the things that has really been, to me, it's 2 games. It's the Raider game and it is this Philly game. But the Cowboys all of a sudden are so much better up front with the addition of Quinnen Williams. You knew that would be the case, but I didn't think it would look this good this quickly. They dominated the line of scrimmage in this football game. Philly could not run the football. Saquon Barkley, 10 carries, 22 yards. Do I think the Dallas defense is now good? No, but it is certainly better. And I'll tell you what, if they end up making the postseason and making a big run, this will be Jerry's all-time acquisition, Quinnen Williams at the trade deadline. It looks stupid at 3-5-1. It was like, why would you spend that much? Why would you do that? Your team's nowhere near contending. You're not a playoff team this year. If they turn it around, because here's where Dallas up front offensively, they can run the football. We know how lethal they can be offensively in the pass game. You know, Dak threw for 354. Pickens right now, uncheckable. CeeDee Lamb, 3 drops in the game. He's had that issue before, especially against the Eagles for some reason. Pickens, would you say right now, Max, that Pickens, if you have to designate one as your number 1 or best receiver and number 2 as your second best receiver, the Pickens right now is their number 1 and Lamb's their number 2?
Brian and I have had this kind of conversation every now and again, and we talked about CD specifically yesterday. Like Pickens, Brian even said to me this morning, I'll snatch 88 right off CeeDee Lamb myself and give it to George Pickens. So I think so, man. I think so.
He is really having himself a season. Pickens now 67 catches. He's already over 1,000 yards. They still have 6 games left, 8 touchdowns, nearly 16 yards per reception. Dallas is good up front, and now is it possible that they're good up front defensively? I thought that, Dallas, after the fumbled punt return, which was a great play by the gunner, who you've probably seen the video of him getting knocked around and keeps getting back up, and he comes down and he makes the hit on the actual fumble on the punt return. And Dallas is set up 1st and goal at the Philadelphia 8, and Javonte Williams rips off a 6-yard run. What are they doing, man? Dropping Prescott back 2nd and goal at the 2 on 3 straight plays. This is where, the old school, it comes out. It's like, you've got to continue to try to run the football here. Javonte Williams is a good back, really good back. And they ended up coming up short, and then Philadelphia takes over. 3:38 left, their own 2-yard line. Yeah, you're leaving them in terrible position going for the 4th down, but they get all the way out to the 29-yard line. There's 2 minutes left, and I'm like, this is not going to work out well. And then on a 3rd and 2, a massive sack, not just a sack, a 13-yard sack. I haven't seen what the reasons for it were. Was there a play where Jalen should have gotten the ball out quickly? Was it a pass blocking blunder? But Dallas gets the ball back, and Prescott makes some big time throws. The first one to Ferguson, and then the other one to Pickens for 24 yards. It gets him in chip shot field goal range. And the Cowboys, for the third time in franchise history, this is tied for their biggest comeback. 21 down, come back to win it 24-21. They did it in 2014 against the Rams, and in 1992 on opening day in Landover, down 35-14 in the second half. They roared back to tie it and then win it on a 76-yard touchdown pass from Aikman to Rocket Ismail. One of the true painful losses in the history of Washington, Dallas, and they did it yesterday. And that's just a big-time comeback. Now, what do I think they are the rest of the year at 5-5-1? I don't know. I think that they're pretty good on offense. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And they're not one-dimensional on offense. Defensively, have they improved themselves with that, those two moves? I mean, you had two trade deadline moves. You got Quinnen Williams, who just flat out is one of the best in the game, and you got Logan Wilson. Those two additions have turned you into an average defense, because people were saying early on, if Dallas was just bad instead of awful on defense, God forbid, average on defense, they'd be a legit contender. Maybe they are approaching average defensively. And what does it mean for Philly? Still occasionally on offense. I mean, they were going after it early through the air. A.J. Brown had to love being fed the football. A.J. Brown early on got targeted a bunch. He was targeted 10 times in the game, had 8 catches for 110 yards. Devontae Smith targeted 11 times, 21 targets to your top two guys. They caught 14 balls for 199 yards in the game. Dallas, we've talked about this, but Chiefs Thanksgiving at Lions a week later on Thursday Night Football. I would say for them to really feel good about their chances, they've got to get a split in the next two and get to 6-6-1. And 10-6-1, I would think, might be good enough. Remember, the Cowboys are only going to be in a tiebreaker at this point with the Packers, the team that tied. There's no tiebreakers with teams that don't have a tie. You're either a better record or a worse record. I would think if they could get through the next two to get to 6-6-1, they finish with Vikings, Chargers at home, Washington, Giants on the road. If they ran the table and got to 10-6-1, that might be good enough for the 7 seed. It's not going to be good enough to chase down Philly for the division, I don't think. Man, Dallas has had some results, too, when you think about it. The loss on the road to the Panthers, the loss at home on Monday Night Football to the Cardinals. You just get one of those. Now, the Panthers, it turns out, are a good football team. But losing to, Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals on Monday Night Football right before the tragic passing of Marshawn Nealon, that's the loss they're going to look back on and say, yeah, we needed that one. But they're very much in it. And as mentioned, they're going to play Kansas City on Thanksgiving Day in what I think will become the most watched regular season NFL game of all time. Let's go to SoFi last night for the Rams and the Bucks.
For the 24, high snap that he brings down. Devontae Adams got another one. Touchdown, Rams. Into the tunnel he goes.
I think they have everything, man. They have the coaching staff. They've got the quarterback. They've got an unbelievable wide receiver tandem. Plus, they have guys, typical of the Rams that you don't even know exist that are open in terms of some of their tight ends. They've got a running back in Kyron Williams. And by the way, Blake Corum's not bad as the backup. They've got a defense. They've got pass rushers. They ended up putting a lot of pressure on Mayfield and then Bridgewater. In hindsight, Mayfield was in a sling, his non-throwing shoulder. And we'll see what that means for the Buccaneers, who are now in the midst of a slide. They've lost 3 games in a row. and are sitting there tied currently with Carolina, who plays at San Francisco tonight. I said it in the open of the show. I think the Rams and the Seahawks are the two best teams in the NFL. We've been talking about the Rams and the Seahawks as the two best teams in the NFC for a few weeks now. I think they're the two best teams in the NFL. I think the big difference is right now, I would take Matt Stafford every day of the week, twice on Sunday before Sam Darnold. I would probably take Sean McVay and his staff over Mike McDonald and their staff, and they're doing a great job. Don't get me wrong. But they're going to play, the Rams are, on December 18th in Seattle. By the way, they go to, listen to this one, by the way. This blew me away. This is, right now, if you want to know what the odds makers think of the LA Rams, next weekend they go to Carolina. Okay, Carolina is a 6-5 football team. They play tonight. In Charlotte, the Rams are a 10-point favorite, a double-digit road favorite against a team currently with a winning record. They are getting right now more overall respect from the odds makers than any team in the league. Wow, that is something else. And the Rams then have, games against Cardinals, but they still play the Lions. They have they have the Lions on a Sunday at SoFi, December 14th, and then they go to Seattle for a Thursday night game. That game is going to determine, I would bet, the NFC West and the 1 seed in the NFC playoffs. Yeah, I guess Philly could still get on a run. I don't think, the NFC South winner is not going to be the 1 seed, and the NFC North winner probably isn't going to be the 1 seed. The Rams-Seahawks division winner, more likely than not, the 1 seed, although, yes, I do know that the Eagles beat the Rams, on that blocked field goal earlier in the season. The Rams are awfully good right now. Tampa in big trouble. That division, you're starting to look at it, and I mean, can Carolina, with a 5.5, over/under win total to start the year, can they win the NFC South? They play the 49ers tonight. They still have the Rams. They still play the Bucs twice. They have a game against the Seahawks. That division might get won by 9-8 or 8-9 when all is said and done. Tonight, in the Carolina-San Francisco game, I'll give it to you at the end of the show. I did not give it out as a smell test pick on Friday, but I talked about it more likely than not being one, but I would let you know Monday. I'll let you know at 12:50 on this show. 6-3-1 with maybe Carolina pending. We'll see tonight. Let's go to Detroit for the Lions and the Giants.
There's Gibbs on first down. Jahmyr Gibbs across midfield. One man to beat inside the 20, the 10. Touchdown on the first play from scrimmage in overtime. Remember, the Giants will have an opportunity. Gibbs takes it 69 yards.
15 carries, 219 yards for Jahmyr Gibbs, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 14.6 yards per carry. He is spectacular. Every time I watch him, I don't think there's a faster back in the league. He also, by the way, had 11 catches in the game for 45 yards and a touchdown. So this was one of the games I was paying attention to. I had the Giants plus the big number, plus the 13. And there's something not right about Detroit right now. I mean, this is another, blown double-digit fourth quarter lead for the Giants. The Lions are lucky to have escaped. By the way, it just speaks to just how bad Washington is defensively, what they came in here and did a few weeks ago. They could barely, score against Philly, and the Giants were doing a good job. I think right now, despite the 219 yards rushing, and that's a lot, I don't trust the Detroit offensive line, which I have in the past few years. I don't know who's going to win that division now. I thought Detroit was going to be right there with the Rams in Seattle and Philly. Goff is getting, off his mark. They're not protecting him like they did last year. And he's an immobile quarterback. He's got to have the time. He's got to be in rhythm. How about Jameis Winston? By the way, did you saw the catch in the touchdown?
Of course.
Yeah. One of the plays of the year. He also threw for 366 yards and 2 touchdowns. What was Brian Dable thinking in the beginning of the year starting Russell Wilson over Jameis Winston? I know I've been a big Jameis Winston backer for his entire career, thinking all of the time that Jameis Winston is going to resurrect his career. I definitely thought it could happen in New Orleans when he went there. Yeah. And then he took a sack on that last play in overtime. What were you going to say?
Well, we see it all the time with Jameis, and this game was the peak Jameis experience. We get it every year.
Yeah.
And one day, like he'll catch a touchdown, and then the very next play, he'll throw a pick, and it's a most back-breaking thing ever. But at least it's fun, man.
Well, wasn't the pick
Jameis.
A deflection off Wan'Dale Robinson or not?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not really his fault. But again, it's the Jameis experience.
He's something else, man. And he's an athlete, and he's a big, strong dude. And there have been a couple of them, in recent, like Flacco's in that same kind of conversation. Dudes that just do not give a blank. They're going to let it rip every single time. And they get great results, and sometimes they get horrible results. The Giants, I'm sure the situation now, the leads the Giants have had in these games. That I'm going to tell you right now, this opening in New York is going to be very sought after, because what's clear about the Giants is they have players, and remember, they're doing this without Malik Neighbors. But here are their last 6 losses, up 26-8 on Denver, or 5 of the last 6 losses, or 4 of the last 6. Had the lead with 2 minutes to go over the Bears, had an opportunity against the Packers, had an opportunity double-digit against the Lions. You go back, they had an 11-point lead against the Saints in the second half. They had the lead against the Cowboys in week 2. Like this, the Giants have a roster. This will be the most fought after, I would say, coaching openings in the offseason, because there's belief that they've got the guy in Jackson Dart to go along with, Malik Neighbors. Yeah, interesting. Another loss for the Giants. Like, if you're a Giant fan and you're hoping for, not only major regime change, but the highest possible first-round pick, they're entertaining you week in and week out. That's for sure. They play the Patriots a week from tonight on Monday Night Football. The Jameis Winston experience on national TV. Let's go to Packers-Vikings at Lambeau.
McCarthy down the seam and too tall and picked off. Second interception for the Packers the last 2 drives. Evan Williams, second week in a row, he's got one.
Green Bay rolled 23-6. The J.J. McCarthy conversations, I was watching some of the pregame stuff. Kevin O'Connell said at some point last week, we have to basically reinvent his mechanics.
Things are going great.
I mean, it's too early. The guy's got 7 starts now. But when you're saying things like that early, rather than just saying, look, he's a young player, he's coming along, he's doing some good things, but, we're going to get him the experience. We believe in him. Reinvent his throwing mechanics. Apparently he takes too wide of a base, which is why he's just wildly inaccurate all of the time. Look, I never got it with J.J. McCarthy. I never got the fascination. You guys know, and many of you do the same thing, a lot of college football. That was a team that in the second half at Penn State ran the ball like 30 straight times and didn't throw a pass. It's college football. Like, people are open when you play for Michigan. I never saw it, but I know he's highly intelligent. He's a phenomenal competitor. I don't think you can give up on a guy 7 starts into his career. But when you got the head coach talking about, we have to reinvent his throwing mechanics, and he isn't just off. He misses receivers by like 6-7 yards regularly. again, like this is one of the, he's with the right guy. You know, he's being with Kevin O'Connell. They'll figure it out. But if you're a Viking fan, man, you got to be kicking yourself over Sam Darnold. But again, to be clear, Sam Darnold had a choice. Like, people just assume they could have just re-signed Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was not going to re-sign with Minnesota if they were believers in J.J. McCarthy being the eventual starter. He went to a place where he is the starter and maybe the starter for the next 5-6 years in Seattle. So that is a bit of a fallacy about Minnesota. Why didn't they just bring Darnold back? Well, because Darnold was an unrestricted free agent and had a choice. They could have franchise tagged him, I guess. But with the way his season ended last year, no one was in the mood. And in fact, most Viking fans were like, fine, after his 2 horrendous games to end last season. All right, we'll get to some of the big AFC games next hour. Ben Standig will join us next.
Hold on a second. Hey, what you finna do this weekend, though? Sunday night.
Bro, just tune in, bro. I'm back. Just tune in, bro.
You back this weekend?
I'm back this weekend, bro.
Let's do it. Come on. I'm in that burgundy. Come on.
Bro, where you get that from?
Come on. Come on, bro. Know you coming back tomorrow. We know what you gonna do. Y'all wearing new uniforms this weekend?
Yeah, bro.
Come on, man. Do your shit, brother. I love you more, brother.
So I've just been told by my producer that this is an old video that we've been referring to. Why didn't you just scream at me? Why are you making a big deal out of this thing? This was before the Seattle game.
Because it got put out over like this weekend, and then I wasn't sure when it was from. I hadn't been able to sit down and watch the full thing.
So you weren't sure.
I mentioned it. It was I wasn't sure if it was old or not. But since we were talking about it, I figured play it anyway. Especially since he said Sunday night. Wasn't really sure. I said it could be about this. So here we are.
Ben Standing's with us.
Hi, Ben.
He's always where we are on Mondays at 12 noon. So apparently that video between Brandon Ayuk and Jaden Daniels, where Jaden Daniels says he's going to play on Sunday night, was prior to the Seattle game. So, yeah, we can strike that from our conversation if that's true. Is that your understanding too, Ben?
Yeah, someone sent it to me over the weekend, and at first you're like, "Whoa, wait, Sunday night," but then I realized Ayuk says something about we, as in the 49ers, are going to be in New York, and it's the same weekend that these guys played Seattle. So, and it's just weird, of course, that Washington played multiple Sunday nights recently. So yeah, it's an old video from that before that Seattle game for Washington.
Okay. Damn. I was hoping he was going to be ready for the game Sunday night, and that was a big surprise that was forthcoming. You mentioned on Friday, and I just want to see if you are still here, a few days later. You still think there's a chance he doesn't play at all the rest of the year, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is not like this is just based on the fact that Dan Quinn, when he originally told us what's going on, he said he'll give us an update after the bye week. And I'm kind of like, well, what does that mean? Well, why not just say now, something more definitive, as they have done to some degree with Jaden previously, at least giving some kind of updates. It felt to me as if there was like a potential medical component of let's see where he's at in a couple weeks and then make an assessment. So look, I don't know. We've talked about what makes sense, what doesn't make sense in terms of playing him, and if there's enough runway for him to gain some momentum, which for me would be like 3 or 4 games, maybe 2 at the most or at the least. Yeah, I mean, that's all. I mean, it sounds like they got good news as far as no ligament damage with the dislocation, but I'm not going to presume anything. Even when I talk to doctors, before. At the time of the injury, and was told if there's no ligament damage, it could be like 1 to 2 months recovery. One obviously would put him in picture to be back maybe by Minnesota, but I'm not going to ignore the downside of it either. And and while I think we're probably all a little bit over Dan Quinn saying we're not going to skip a step, I don't think they'll skip any step. I wouldn't think here with him. And what's the point in playing him down the stretch if he's playing through something? So. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I think it's a possibility, but
you're not going to play him if he's got to play through something. If he's not 100% healthy, you don't play him, obviously, as a 3-8, 3-9, 3-10 football team. He's got to be. This conversation only really begins, when he's 100% cleared. Like everybody says, he's fine. There's nothing wrong with the elbow. There's nothing wrong with the rib. There's nothing wrong with the hamstring. There's nothing wrong with the knee. He's ready to roll if you want to play him. It's the only way.
For sure.
Yeah. So and my personal view, we've had this conversation. We'll probably have it in the future as well. If they get that clearance, I'm playing him, unless it's the final game of the season. Maybe the final 2, I'd think about not playing him. But if you got 3 or more games, he's playing for me. I saw you tweeted this out, or you sent it to me. Just the Emmanuel Forbes night last night against Tampa. 7 targets, didn't allow a single reception. No defender since week 12, 2022 per Next Gen has been targeted more times without allowing a catch. Forbes in the game recorded a career high 5 passes defensed in the win. What are your thoughts about the 2023 first round Washington selection playing at a pretty decent level with the Rams?
I mean, it was like, it was just so funny watching Chris Collinsworth or hearing Chris Collinsworth just get like almost uncomfortably excited every time Emmanuel Forbes did anything. I was like, dude, go get a room together. It's wild. I mean, it just shows what confidence can do. I thought the biggest mistake that they made here originally was putting him out there to go one-on-one with the A.J. Browns of the world when, he was a rookie and he wasn't ready. And he was, as we knew, his body wasn't, not typically built for the NFL. And, he needed to, I think, be eased in more than they did. And I feel like he lost a lot of confidence. I always gave him credit whenever we would talk to him in the locker room after the game or during practice. And obviously it was typically about something that was not going well. He always stood up. He stood tall. He answered the questions, looked us in the eye, all that kind of stuff, which to me showed that there was, there was more fight in there than maybe people thought. And obviously this, this current regime, only had him for a short amount of time and decided, hey, this isn't for us. That's maybe an interesting discussion down the line. But the Rams, I mean, the Rams coaching staff is obviously top level. It's not surprising that they're the organization that pegged him and have turned this around. And look, I mean, for those who go back in time, we can discuss why Washington took Forbes instead of Christian Gonzalez, who already looks like one of the best.
That was a mistake. Yeah, look, whatever. I mean, Christian Gonzalez in that draft was just a better prospect than was Emmanuel Forbes. But that doesn't mean that Emmanuel Forbes couldn't have become a really good player too, which he might be in the process of doing.
Right. I had heard, I mean, look, he was pick 16, but when Jameis Davis went 19, I think it was a good sense that if they don't pick him 19, he slips into day 2. I think with Forbes, I don't know he's getting past the early 20s. I remember the Ravens
that's true.
We're interested in him. Whether they would have picked him up, who knows? But it was like, it was just you don't pick him over Gonzalez. And there were some people who definitely questioned his.
No, he was a late riser. He was a riser there at the end. He wasn't going to get out of the first round.
And also as we recall, the interceptions and the pick sixes and all that. Instincts are. I always kind of feel like you really can't teach instincts. You can get people experience, and they can take that experience to improve. But I think instincts are often a really interesting variable. He clearly had them. I mean, look, obviously it didn't work here. And then, of course, on top of it, Cam Curl is also there, and Chris Collinsworth said he's probably the best tackling safety in the league. It's just like, dude, stop pouring salt in the wounds when we've been doing lately is talking about how this defense keeps giving up big plays down the field. I don't have an issue with Cam Curl moving on either. That was about money and things like
first
that.
of all, they never had Cam Curl, right? Didn't he sign in 2024 in the free agency period because he was an unrestricted free agent?
Yeah, I mean that was the deal where he and his father was very public about how much money Cam Curl was going to get, and then the market said not so fast.
Yeah,
but it's one thing to sort of take that lesser deal that you think you're getting from somebody else than the team that you just played for. So look, I mean, you can't keep everybody, and good for them if they moved on and had some success and so on and so on. But it's just to see Forbes. I mean, look, good for Forbes. Happy for him. And look, if the Rams, if this keeps going, the Rams already have a pretty impressive defense to now add a potentially legit corner on the outside who can, cover people. I mean, that says a lot. I will note, of course, with Tampa Bay that they are missing, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
Well, they got Godwin back last night. Yeah.
Right. But that was only his first game back. And,
and obviously Baker got hurt and so on and so on. So,
but he did a good job against Smith and the Jigba last week.
Yeah. No. He's done some good. He's done some good stuff. I mean, like I said,
I think
confidence is key.
Yeah, look, confidence, fit, everything. But, it's one thing, and I'm just going to use you. It's one thing for Ben and Bethesda to, shoot draft choices 6 games into their career or, 12, 13, 15 games into their career. We get that all the time about how bad the 2024 and 2025 drafts were. And it's like, you just got to relax, people. It doesn't happen that way. It's another thing for Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and the entire group to bail on a guy with clear talent. Like Forbes had talent. It's a position that also typically takes time. So, yes, maybe the fit, maybe the scheme, maybe the confidence, as you said, but you don't want to let guys that have first-round talent, which he did, it's for the Ben and Bethesdas to call in and bail on draft choices after their 3rd game, not for these guys. So this, to me, is like, I can't hang them for anything that they've done in the draft in 24 or 25. It's just way too early. This is just my personal feeling over all of a lifetime of watching football. But I can be upset that they didn't figure out that a talent like Forbes, who, and by the way, a good kid by all accounts, wasn't worth sticking around for.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's going to be an interesting topic, among the different topics that we've looked at in terms of, the draft classes under Peters or just the development of some of the younger players here under this staff. And then to see a guy who was a 1st-round pick, go away and turn it around.
They waived him. Let's not forget, people. They just cut him loose at the end of last year, near the end of last year.
Right. Now, I mean, they also traded away Jahan Dodson. That doesn't look like it's come back to bite them. They released Jamin Davis. He's just bounced around the league and been on practice squads for the most part.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I think in the case of Forbes, he had only played the 1 year, and
exactly, Davis had already played 3 years,
right? And towards the end of Forbes, after the early struggles, he played a lot less down the stretch. So yeah, I mean, you'd like to think that it would be given an opportunity to be with the new coaching staff, that maybe things could change. And also, look, Joe Witt Jr. was the defensive coordinator, but he was the defensive backs coach for the Cowboys prior to coming here. So that's his area of expertise. And, look, sometimes these things, it really is just, you got to go somewhere else, right? I mean, to take a more extreme example, the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Doncic in part because he was out of shape. And I think anybody who watched him could tell that. Then he gets traded. Here's everybody making the fat jokes, and suddenly has an off season where he gets into shape. Does that happen if he stays in Dallas? I don't know, maybe not. But sometimes getting released or traded or whatever gives you the wake up call to hey, we got to make some changes here. So who knows? Maybe it never works, and maybe he needed that. And again, the Rams with Sean McVay, his staff, do a great job of turning. They've constantly turned day 3 picks or random pieces into legit starters, and clearly, they've done it here with a cast off that is looking pretty good.
Ben writes a really good Substack column. You can find it and get access to it and subscribe to it through his Twitter page at Ben Standig. He's got a podcast called Last Man Standing as well. Okay, putting aside the fact that this video that circulated over the weekend with Ayuk and Jaden Daniels was actually from a few weeks ago. My fault on that one. What do you make of Ayuk's potential availability? Because it does look like a parting of the ways is coming in San Francisco. The knee injury was obviously a really bad knee injury, but what do you think the interest level in him will be around the league? And do you think it's a player that Washington should look at?
Oh boy. Well, obviously there's a lot of connections here, right? Adam Peters drafted Ayuk, and Jaden Daniels played with Ayuk at Arizona State. We remember last year, Ayuk putting up on social media
video that Jaden shared with him from OTAs or training camp or some practice, which was, not a big, wasn't state secrets, but it was a bit of a no-no for sure, and a lesson learned for the young quarterback and all that stuff. To me, if they are serious about culture, this has got to be a hard pass. I mean, they brought in Debo, who had a tough time, I think, at the end with the 49ers, and they were willing to take a massive salary cap hit to move on from Debo. But okay, we understand the risk for Washington, a one-year deal, all that. There was no real ties to Jaden Daniels other than just he knew of him because of Ayuk and just being a football player. But in terms of Ayuk, I mean, he clearly is, got a tight relationship with Daniels. In that video that you referenced, it shows Ayuk showing Daniels a watch that he bought him, which, kind of a watch that would more expensive than my car, it appears. So there's clearly a bond there. The 49ers, it's not just like a salary cap cut the way maybe, Washington did with John Allen this year. They voided the guarantees of his deal to end this thing. I think somebody asked Kyle Shanahan, what do you make of that? And he was like, well, in the 20 years I've been doing this, I think this is the first time that's happened or something like that. This is abnormal, and it's got to be because of some kind of behavioral issues, missing practices or whatever. So that's a massive red flag. Now, I think that Ayuk, if I had to guess, probably enters the market looking for like a one-year deal, for some good money on a one-year deal, but as a rehab situation, he will not have played this year. Meaning he won't have played since 2024, and the injury itself wasn't just an ACL tear; it was even more significant than that.
That'll dictate whether or not there's a market for him, obviously.
Right. So he won't have, played forever. So I think, from his perspective, the receiver's perspective, it makes sense to take a one-year deal. If you told me in a vacuum, one-year deal for, X amount of money, yeah, sure. I mean, we could have that conversation. He's obviously a very talented player. Pairing him with McLaurin on the outside would be fun and all that. But, man, you really going to have to tell me he's going to be on his best behavior with no mistakes, all that, to even consider this. And, again, I thought – I'm not saying that Lattimore or Tunsil or Debo in any way, shape, or form are bad guys or bad locker room guys or anything, but they all kind of do their own thing. They are not like, they've been around. They don't just like Bobby Wagner is more of that, team first guy. Those guys are, kind of, again, doing their own bit. This would be even more extreme, I think, in terms of if you're telling me this is all about building a culture. I just don't see it. So we're going to have the conversation many times because of the ties, no doubt. But as it stands right now, boy, Adam Peters would really have to do some convincing for me to believe that this would make sense here.
Talking to Ben, going back to this upcoming week, Jaden's going to be obviously a big question. But what about Terry and what about Noah Brown? Could they be back this week?
Well, I mean, Terry, based on the timeline here where, he missed 4 games when he first had the injury, then came back, and now it's been another 4 weeks or so. And the fact that he went overseas to work with the training staff to do some on the field stuff suggests he's progressing to the point where it wouldn't surprise me if he does play this week or at least practice, to the point where that they're hoping to get him on the field. So we'll see about that. When it comes to injury this year, I'm assuming nothing, but that makes sense. Noah Brown, I don't know. I mean, he was supposedly on the verge of getting back before they put him on IR, and now they've already blown past the 4 weeks on that, and he hasn't played since week 2. So who knows what to make of that. Hopefully, for his sake and their sake, he is back, if not this week, soon, to get Terry and Noah Brown back and especially if Jaden Daniels does return, would be huge. Not only would it give you, some downfield threats that force the defense to cover all parts of the field, which they haven't had to do for weeks, but also, it would give Cliff Kingsbury the opportunity to work with essentially the lineup that they planned on from the jump, other than Austin Eckler. Everybody else, right, would be there, assuming there's no other injuries. So that would be ideal. And even if it is Mariota and not Jaden Daniels, it still would allow everybody to sort of get back to their usual role of the running backs not have to run into, crowded boxes, things like that. So that would be huge, but I don't, like I said, Terry, I think it seems promising. Noah Brown, we'll have to wait and see for that one. No idea.
From this guy, Troy, he just sent me this. I don't know if it's true or not. Emmanuel Forbes was the highest graded PFF player in the game last night, and his coverage number was the third highest of the season for any corner in the NFL per PFF. By the way, speaking of the Rams, do you think they're the best team in the league? Who's the best team in the NFL right now?
Yeah, I think it's them. I mean, New England's got 10 wins, but they haven't. They're Washington for this year. Coming out of nowhere, young quarterback, new coach. Obviously, Vrabel has a track record for sure, but that I'm not ready to buy into them yet. I still would probably put the Chiefs as a team to worry about, but clearly they still have to make the playoffs. The Eagles. I mean, their defenses look great, but their offense is just so bizarre. And then, to have the collapse they did yesterday, just shows that they still may very well come out of the NFC, but there's something weird going there. But with the Rams, we just talked about their defense. Their defense just smashed the Bucs last night, and they've just looked really good. They've got pass rushers with Jared Verse and others. And of course, we just talked about their secondary. It's not just Forbes; they have other guys that have helped. But then on offense, I mean, Matthew Stafford, to me, right now, is the runaway MVP. If the season ended today, Puka Nacua is a monster. Devontae Adams, I mean, that may be the best wide receiver duo in the league right now. They've got a good back in Kieran Williams. So, yeah, I mean, I think, and of course, I think Sean McVay ties it all together. I mean, what he does year over year. It doesn't matter who comes in there. They're able to take new players, blend them in with what they do, and make it all work. So also kudos, I guess, to their front office with GM Les Snead in charge. So, yeah, I think the Rams, to me, are that team. Plus, they have – this isn't just like a random appearance. Like they gave the Eagles the best run last season in the playoffs, right? And they won the Super Bowl not that long ago with, a lot of these same players. So, yeah, I think to me the Rams are the team to beat right now.
Yeah, I think they are, and I trust them more than I do Seattle, but I think those are the top two teams, and they play December 18th, a Thursday night game in Seattle. That could be for the 1 seed, and SoFi's not, that kind of home field advantage. Seattle is, so that could ultimately determine it. But I think the Rams right now, I think they might have the best offense in the NFL, and they've got a top 5 defense in the NFL to go with it. And then last night they appeared to have found a kicker who looked like he was 5'5" and 290 pounds. It was quite the odd build for a kicker.
The thicker kicker. Yeah, the thicker kicker, absolutely. And by the way, like with the Seattle.
What did you call him? The thicker kicker?
The thicker kicker, yeah. I think
Love
that's
it.
his nickname. Yeah.
Oh, is that what it is? I didn't know that.
I think so. And you mentioned Seattle. Obviously, they looked amazing against Washington a few weeks back, and they've been like top 5 or 6 in all 3 phases on DVOA this year. I think the question there is, you mentioned trust. I don't think anybody's ready to trust Sam Darnold in a big spot. Not saying he has played very well this year, of course, but that was the issue I think with Minnesota last year, why they moved on, and a couple weeks ago, he had a spotty game in a big spot, so we'll see. But yeah, no, those two teams I think in the NFC with the Eagles are the ones to watch, but the Rams certainly look like the team to beat right now.
All right, talk to you later. Thanks for doing this as always.
Yeah, man. See you.
Ben Standig, our Washington Commanders insider, on this show with us every Monday and Friday. Dan Quinn today at 3:30. I would assume that Chris will either carry it or have the highlights of it. We'll find out about who's back or who's got a chance to be back for the game on Sunday night, although Quinn typically kind of holds off on that information until, at the very least, their first practice day on Wednesday. Denver, by the way, an early 6.5-point favorite, less than a touchdown The NFL game tonight features Carolina and San Francisco. I may have a smell test pick on that before the end of the show. We'll get to the AFC story yesterday when we return. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, the team980.com, free and live on the Odyssey app. Don't forget, you can watch us on our Team 980 YouTube channel. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button when you get there.
The biggest plays and clutch moments.
Oh, look out! Touchdown! A miracle!
It's time to go around the NFL.
Steichen right there at the line, running down at the last minute. 2nd and 10. Mahomes has Rice at the 30. And he falls down again as he did on his long catch earlier. 27 yards to win it. And the kick is good. Kansas City survives.
First one-score game of the season that Kansas City came out on the right side of. We continue going around the NFL, focusing in now primarily on some of the big AFC games of the day yesterday. Kansas City in overtime. They rally from 11 down in the fourth quarter to beat the Indianapolis Colts 23-20. This was kind of a high-quality game. Unlike the game in which the Eagles and the Cowboys played, and there were a ton of mistakes in this game. This one Chiefs dominated time of possession. I don't know if anybody has seen this, but they literally ran 41 more offensive plays in the game than the Colts did. 33 first downs to 10, 494 yards to 255, 42-35 to 25-28 in possession. And how did they do that? They ran the football. You know, when Andy Reid's been in a pinch and they've had the ability to, they can run the football. 41 rushes for 148 yards, 30 by Kareem Hunt for 104 yards. You know, they don't have Isaiah Pacheco right now, and that's why the rookie first rounder from a few years ago from LSU, Edwards-Helaire, sorry, I blanked on that, is now the backup. But man, that was one they needed. I kind of came away a little bit impressed with that, with both teams. Indy's, their losses now have been to the Rams 27-20, a game that they had a chance to win, the Steelers 27-20, and the Chiefs 23-20. Now it gets serious for them, though. Texans, Jags, Seahawks, Niners, Jags, Texans. AFC South has a long way to go. Both Jacksonville and Houston, both with their 2 games against Indy. Indy's only 2 division games have both been against the Titans. But the Chiefs stay alive. That's the big story here. Mahomes doing some really good work over the fourth quarter and in overtime. And that puts them at 6-5 with a Thanksgiving Day game in Dallas against the Cowboys. Look, that AFC playoff picture, they're still on the outside looking in. Right now, your 7 seed is Buffalo at 7-4, Jacksonville's at 7-4, and the Chargers are at 7-4. So you have those 3 teams at 7-4, and then Pittsburgh, Houston, Kansas City, all at 6-5. This is going to be a very interesting race because there are going to be 6 teams. The AFC North runner-up, the AFC South's second and third place teams, the AFC East's second, and then the AFC West's second and third, all vying for 3 spots. Basically 6 teams for 3 spots. It will be fascinating down the stretch in the AFC, but the Chiefs got it done, rallying for a 23-20 win. They dominated the possession of the football. Let's go to Baltimore for the Jets and the Ravens.
2nd down and 5. Hall trying to get to the outside. Now cuts it up. Breece Hall still going, and he lost the football. Baltimore claiming they have it. No official signal yet. And now it is Ravens ball.
Yeah, that Breece Hall fumble, too, was deep in Baltimore territory. The Ravens have won 5 games in a row. They have rallied from 1-5 to get to 6-5. Their wins have been against the Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, and Jets. Their last 3 games against the Vikings, Browns, and Jets were all tight football games. The final score yesterday was 23-10, but it's not really indicative. The Jets led 7-3 at the end of the first half. They had opportunities in the second half, down 10-7, even down 17-7. There was a really bad decision made by Aaron Glenn. Baltimore really kind of struggled to move the football in this game. They were 2 of 11 on third down. They had 241 total yards against the Jet defense. They just didn't look good. I'll tell you what doesn't look right about Baltimore right now, and this is more for Ravens fans, just from afar. Lamar doesn't look right running the football. He just does not look like Lamar running the football. It looks like he's less willing. It looks like he's less explosive. I'm looking at his rushing numbers. He was 7 for 11 yesterday, 4 for 10 last week against Cleveland. Great defense. 9 for 36 against Minnesota, 5 for 14. He hasn't had a good rushing day since the opener against Buffalo all the way back on September 7th when he went 6 for 70. His throwing percentages are way off. He's in the 50s over the last 3 games. I don't think he looks right. I don't know what it is, if it's the injury, if he's not physically right. Against the Jet defense, he was 13 of 23, really? For 153 yards, had a 34.3 QBR. Look, the AFC North may be determined by the lesser of several teams. I still give Pittsburgh a chance. They've got 2 games with the Ravens. And the Ravens, their schedule, I mean, it's not hard until the very end. They get the Bengals on Thanksgiving night, then the Steelers, then the Bengals again. Then it's the Patriots, Packers, and Steelers. So, the schedule after this really weak run of scheduling gets tougher. But the Steelers have the Bills this weekend, then at Baltimore, the Dolphins, the Lions. They finish with the Ravens. I mean, 8-9, 9-8 might be all you need to win the AFC North. Not really blown away by the Ravens. And look, you don't have to be good now. It's that thing that, a lot of people talk about, not just, us. You don't have to be good in September, October, November. But you got to win enough games so that if you get good, the games matter when you are good. And maybe that's where the Ravens are headed. Okay, I'm not saying that they're not headed in that general direction. Maybe they are. But I don't think they're a good football team right now. I really don't. In this game, the Jets had, opportunities. They turned the ball over twice. If the Jets lose the turnover margin, -2, shouldn't the score be 40-7? It wasn't. It was 23-10 was the final. Jets were in it for much of the game. Let's go to Cincinnati for one of the more entertaining games of the day, the Patriots and the Bengals.
Super Bowl MVP with Baltimore. Brooks was the back. Flacco will go underneath. Oh, it's picked off. That's a pick 6. Kiss him goodbye. Marcus Jones. Our second pick 6 in this one. Going each way. And New England has captured the lead.
Yeah, Flacco had a bad pick 6. Drake May was off early. He had a pick 6, but he got it together, man. He did. Flacco did to a certain degree as well. No Jamar Chase in this game. Obviously, that was hurtful to Cincinnati's chances. They hung in there. They played, believe it or not, good defense for the first time this year. They held New England to less than 400 yards. They were 5 for 13 on third down. They had multiple opportunities in the red zone and came away without points or got held to field goals. And at the very end of the game, Cincinnati was all the way down at the New England 25-yard line with a chance to walk off and win it. But they were unable to get it done. They did get the cover, though. And New England goes to 10-2. Even when he's had some moments this year, man, it seems like, for those of you that follow my smell test, I've been on the opposite side of New England so many times this year. Now, a little bit of a win streak with that. I had Atlanta against them. I had Cincinnati yesterday. And so they have not covered, even though they've won these games. Even when he looks a little bit off at times, he gets it together quickly. They give him a lot of easy throws. There are a lot of easy throws for him. And then with their ability with Travion Henderson in particular, to suck up some of that line of scrimmage in that second level, play action works. Josh McDaniel and the scheme is good. Look, there's going to be a lot of naysayers with the Patriots because of the schedule, and it's not like it gets a lot harder. They get the Giants. I mean, the Giants have been feisty, no doubt. They do have the Bills, Ravens, but then they end with the Jets and Dolphins. I mean, right now in that AFC East, New England's got, a solid 2.5 game lead. They've got one left with the Bills. I think they're going to win the division. And look, they still have a chance to snag a 1 seed and have the postseason go through Foxborough. That would be amazing. I mean, New England's at 10. They get the Giants, the Jets, and the Dolphins in their final 5. They're getting to 13. They're going to get to 13. And so that may be good enough for the 1 seed in the AFC. Let's go to Soldier Field for Chicago and Pittsburgh.
Through the air, 2 touchdowns, turns this into a third and manageable. Flags are down. Williams downfield, open man, touchdown, DJ Moore.
So there are a couple of things, going on in Chicago. I mean, they definitely have, and you develop this, every year you see teams all the time and you're like, they're not very good. And they just figure out ways to win. Right now, that is Chicago. There are a couple of things. No Aaron Rodgers, and that hurt. Rudolph had an interception. He had a fumble in the game. He also had another ball that was near pick 6. But he also had a run game yesterday. Pittsburgh's actually a little bit underrated in their run game. Both Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell are good backs. Philly let Gainwell go. He was 10 for 92 yesterday. Warren was 18 for 68. They rushed for 186 yards in the game. That's massive in a game that turned out 31-28. They turned the ball over twice. That hurt them a lot. And Caleb Williams found a way. It's not like he's throwing at a high percentage, but 3 more touchdown passes, a couple of timely runs. There's a player in Chicago that I love. I wanted Washington to consider drafting him, Luther Burden II out of Missouri. Man, he looks like a player. And they try to get him the ball in a lot of different spots. They got weapons with Moore and Adunze and the tight end Loveland, and then you got Swift and the Rutgers back that number 25, Mananage from Rutgers that played well against us in the Monday night game. They got a lot of stuff going for them right now. 31-28, the Bears. Now they get the Eagles on Black Friday, then they're at Lambeau, then they have the Browns at home, then the Packers, Niners, and Lions to end the season. So we're about to find out. But they're getting those breaks, right? They're winning these close games. They're winning these comeback games, not against very good teams. They got a break yesterday in facing a backup quarterback. Chicago over Pittsburgh, 31-28. Elsewhere, what did we not touch on? The Seahawks won 30-24. In that game, you had the return guy for Tennessee, Chimere Dike from Florida. What is it?
Chimere Dike.
DK. He's killing it as a returner this year. He's got, what does he have? 2 touchdowns now as a returner? Something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
It's not just something like that. He does. He's got 2 punt returns for touchdowns this year in the NFL, and he's got a 71 and a 68-yard kickoff return in the league this year. A 4th rounder out of Tennessee. We picked a 4th round return guy too, and he did have a 90-yard punt return. Tennessee having obviously the worst season. They lost 30-24. They lined up for an onside kick, hoping to get it at the end down 6. But Sam Darnold did bounce back from that 4-interception game, didn't throw a pick in this one. And Smith and the Jigba, again, 8 for 167. I mean, seriously, this dude is unstoppable. The Jags-Cards game was an interesting game. The Jags survived 27-24 in overtime. Trevor Lawrence threw 3 interceptions, and they still won the game. But this was another one of those games where I just didn't understand. They're up 24-21. They have the ball on a 4th and 1 at the Arizona 19-yard line. And they decided to go for it, and they got stopped. Arizona went down, kicked a game-tying field goal. In a game like that, sorry, I'm going to make it 27-21. I don't think the Cardinals can go down and beat me. But they can come down and tie, which they did. And in overtime, though, the Jags got the win. They're like the Bears. I'm not really trusting they're 7-4, the Bears 8-3. But they have found a way to win, like just, in their last 3 games, right? They did club the Chargers last week, but they barely beat the Raiders in overtime, and they barely beat the Cardinals in overtime. They still have 2 against the Titans. They play the Jets. They do play the Colts, though, twice. That AFC South, man, usually not the division. You got 3 teams, and they all play each other. They haven't played any of their games against each other. Indy, Jacksonville, and Houston have not played any games against each other. Actually, Houston played Jacksonville once. That's it. Houston's played Jacksonville once. They got the 2 with the Colts left. All right, couple of other things to finish up with. We'll do that when we come back. I do want everybody to know that all of our NFL talk is brought to you by Paramount Plus. Sports talk always on 980, presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. I'll let you know if I have a smell test pick on Carolina when we come back.
And they go to Sampson out of the backfield. He's got two tight ends blocking on the outside. He's got room. He bursts inside Raiders territory. One man to beat. He won't be caught. Touchdown, Sampson. 66 yards.
It's amazing, off of 1 week of practice, you know what I mean? Just 1 week of practice. So imagine, what a full offseason look like. It get dangerous. But it's just a 1 week of practice. So I'm just truly thankful, that everything happened.
Shedeur Sanders, after throwing a check down that went 66 yards for a touchdown, his first touchdown of his NFL career. He was 11 of 20 for 209 yards. He had one of the lowest QBRs of the season at 8.7. I didn't watch any of this game. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought there was a chance that he could be better with a full week of practice. And by the way, after they won the game against the Raiders 24-10, you're not going back to Dylan Gabriel. So we'll get a chance to see him over some time. I watched that quote, which was all about himself. He's young. Hopefully things will be more about teammates. But, man, he's not his father, not quite yet in resume, that's for sure. And as a quarterback, man, you gotta know that when you win, it's about we and us. And, oh, by the way, maybe Myles Garrett's 3 sacks. He's now got 18 on the season. He's going to shatter the record if he stays healthy here over the final 6 games of the season. It's about what Sampson did on that check down throw. But when you lose, then it's all about you. That's a lesson for quarterbacks at young ages. Look, there's something to him. I mean, we've talked a lot about Shedeur Sanders. I was not a big fan. I didn't think he was a first-round pick. I think he held it way too long. But I also thought he was more elusive than people gave him credit for in terms of not being a super athletic guy, but being a good feel guy in terms of being able to duck pressure. He only got sacked once in the game yesterday. I'm wondering why that QBR. His QBR in relief last week was 2.3. It was 8.7 yesterday on a scale of 0 to 100. But they won a game, man. And, hopefully he continues to grow. Not rooting against him, that's for sure. I got no reason to do that. That Cleveland defense is so good. The Raiders in that game against Cleveland's defense, Geno Smith got sacked 10 times. 10. For 77 lost yards. I mean, this Cleveland team is unbelievable defensively. If they had any answer at quarterback this year, they would have been a legitimate playoff contender. Anyway, all right, smell test tonight. So after going 6-3-1, it's now 13 weeks without a losing week. That's all 13 weeks. I didn't start. It's been 13 weeks of the smell test. 6-3-1 this weekend. 3-3 college. 3-0-1 yesterday with the Jets, Giants, Bengals, and then pushed with the Cardinals. I know some of you had 2.5. Some of you had 3.5. You told me and won that game outright. The Cardinals certainly had a chance. I thought that I'd be giving out the Panthers. That number now is at 7.5 and climbing. I'm off it. I'm not giving out Carolina tonight. So no smell test pick on the Panthers. 49ers trying to get to 8-4. The Panthers, by the way, with a win tonight would be in first place in the NFC South by themselves. They would be a half game in front of the Buccaneers, who they play twice over the final 3 weeks of the season. It's weird the way it's worked out. It seems like some of these division contenders, they haven't played their 2 games. Like Baltimore still has Pittsburgh twice. Houston still has Indy twice. Jacksonville still has Indy twice. The Buccaneers still have Carolina twice down the stretch. So we're going to see some very important division playoff implication games over the final month and a half of this season. So no smell test pick tonight. Back tomorrow. Chris is next.